Hey guys, what's going on? It's Flip, and today we're doing a guide to my favorite weapon in martial arts cinema, and that is the flying guillotine. Now, before we dive into the films, I just want to say, apparently this was a real weapon that the Qing Dynasty tried to develop, and I just find that absurd. And that's the reason why I love this weapon, is that it's so damn absurd. And this film is actually not as absurd as you would think for a weapon called the flying guillotine. This movie is very story-focused, and it's very character-driven, which is kind of surprising for the Hong Kong cinema at the time, especially in the Kung Fu stuff. Not to say that all Kung Fu movies were just fighting, but when you see a movie called The Flying Guillotine, I immediately was like, I can't wait to watch hundreds of people get decapitated. But what I found is a really awesome character-driven movie with a kick-ass weapon. Now, this was such a success that they wanted to make sequels. Shaw wanted to make sequels right away, but there was some turmoil behind the scenes, and a couple movies from different countries and different studios came out before they could ever put out Flying Guillotine 2. And one of them is Master of the Flying Guillotine. This was directed by Jimmy Wang Yu, and he repurposed this as a direct sequel to The One-Armed Boxer. It's one of the best martial art tournament films of all time. I think it might be the best. I have such a blast watching this movie. It's one of my all-time favorites. I highly recommend you check this out. This DVD is still pretty cheap, even though it's out of print. I love this movie. Fingers crossed that Eureka does a nice version of this like they did with The One-Armed Boxer. Really, really, really happy to have this in the collection. And it's also really fun to see someone else's vision of what the Flying Guillotine could do. And speaking of other countries' visions and other people's visions, I believe this movie is from Taiwan. It's very, very low budget, and it is ridiculous. And that is the Fatal Flying Guillotine. This movie is not to be taken serious. It is kind of dumb at times, super low budget. I think this is a bootleg DVD, which I'm totally fine with because I'm sure we'll never get a proper release of this movie. But this is ridiculous, and it's a lot of fun. Now, there was one more movie that came out before The Flying Guillotine 2 by the same director of The Flying Guillotine that features a weapon very similar. It's all about the heads being decapitated, and that is the Dragon Missile. This is put out by 88 Films. This movie, I feel like, is underrated when people talk about Shaw. A lot of people go for the, the Venom Mob movies, which I will be doing a guide to the Venom Mob. People go to, 36 Chambers, The Brave Archer, One-Armed Boxer, One-Armed Swordsman, The Eighth Diagram Pole Fighter. But I think the Flying Guillotine movie and the Dragon Missile are both worthy of being talked about in the same breath as those films. Again, this isn't like a direct, it's not directly related to the Flying Guillotine, but I'm including it in this little video because it has a weapon very similar that does the same thing. Cut off people's damn heads. Now we finally get to Flying Guillotine 2, which recently got teased as a Blu-ray from 88 Films, so I can finally upgrade this Dragon Dynasty DVD. This is a direct sequel. It is very, very, very fun. And the one thing I will say about the Flying Guillotine trilogy, because it's a trilogy, we'll talk about the last one here in a second, is that it is good. Every single film is good. It's good from start to finish. I feel like trilogies in neither Chambara films or Kung Fu films, there is a lacking film in a franchise. But I feel like Flying Guillotine does not have a lacking film. And what a way to end it. This movie is amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I think it's Ming Hua Ho. I think it's his best film. And that is The Vengeful Beauty. That might be kind of a hot take. I just really like this movie. It's such a blast. And it's a nice closure to the Flying Guillotine trilogy. Now, there is one more movie I want to highlight that's not related in any way to any of these films. It just happens to have the Flying Guillotine in it for a little bit, and that is Dynasty. Kino Lorber put this out this year. One of the coolest Blu-rays I have in my collection, because this movie can be played in 3D even if you don't have a 3D-capable television. They send you a pair of 3D glasses, and once my eyes got adjusted to it, it was really, really cool. And I've watched it 3 or 4 times now, and I've had a blast each time. And the Flying Guillotine's in this movie, and it actually comes at you. Like, you feel like it's about to, cut off your head. So, anyways, this is a nice little, this was just a quick little guide to one of my favorite martial arts weapons, my all-time favorite martial arts weapons. If you can track down the Blu-rays for Dragon Missile, Vengeful Beauty, and Flying Guillotine, I highly, highly recommend you do, because they are so damn good. And keep an eye out for the Flying Guillotine 2 coming out from 88 Films later this year, hopefully, or maybe early next year. And let me know if you guys think about these guide videos. I'm really enjoying doing this. I have a couple more planned out. I want to do a guide to the Venom Mob, all the Venom Mob movies I have in my collection. I want to do a guide to the Westerns that Arrow have put out. I want to do a guide to samurai movies. And kind of break it down into like publishers, so like Criterion samurai movies or Anamigo samurai movies, because they put out a lot of the lesser known ones. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and until next time, I'm Flip.